Hi, it's that fancy chick back again with another stream. It's Wednesday. We have a couple of things to talk about. Ahsoka, of course. But last Lord, Monday, we were talking about WGA Writers Guild, the Writers Strike, Writers Guild voting to end the writers strike. Well, they voted, and the writers' strike ended as of 12:01 a.m. this morning, I believe. I believe it was 12:01 a.m. this morning. And I had wanted to see the details of the new deal that they got with the AMPTP, and I got on their website. They have the whole deal. They have the whole deal on the website. The whole entire, amended contract on the website. But we ain't got time to look at that. So we're looking at the summary. So I had the summary. So, and even then, it's a long summary. So we're going to be skimming through the summary just to see what it looks like. And see. Yes. They have to, well, the actors have to get their deal in order for them to really get started. But they can start right. They can start back. They can, as of today, the writers can go back to work and they can start writing again, which means the talk shows can get started, can go back to work. So that's cool. So, the way they was jumping on Drew Barrymore, they can leave Drew Barrymore alone. And she can go back to work and pay her people. And they can start writing. And so when the actors make their deal, they can hit the ground running and have some scripts ready so they can be ready to, shoot for the fall season, because the fall season normally starts shooting in July and it's September, which means we're not going to get a fall season until probably, I don't know, December, January. It's going to be a while before we get a fall season. It's going to be a minute before we get a fall season from the networks. And who knows how long it's going to be before the streamers get their stuff together. But I forget there was one. I forget this movie. Somebody's movie only had 2 days of shooting left. I forget which movie it was, but I was like, oh, I know they're frustrated. They only had 2 days left of shooting. So, but they still have to wait for the actors to get their deal so they can go back. But let's look at the summary of the WGA NBA. I think this is it. Yes. So, back. Okay, so this is the whole website devoted to they made an entire website devoted to the contract. Okay, so summary of the 2023 WGA NBA. The following is a summary of the deal terms of the 2023 NBA. It is a simplified version of the memorandum of agreement. Terms of agreement. The term of agreement is September 25th, so 2 days ago, through May 1st, 2026. Minimum increases. Most NBA minimums will increase by 5% on ratification of the contract, 4% on May 2nd, 2024, and 3.5% on May 2nd, 2025. Some minimums and rates increase less, mostly by 3% each year, while a few rates increase only once or do not increase over the contract. These exceptions are the result of patterns established in the industry. increased health and pension contribution rate. The health fund contribution on reportable earnings will increase 0.5% in the second year of the agreement, 11.5% to 12%. Okay, increased health and pension contributions for writing terms. Each writer on a writing team employed for a script will receive pension and health contributions up to the relevant cap as though they were a single writer. Rather than splitting the applicable cap. In addition, when a writing team is employed in a series, the contribution for each writer on the team will be made on the full weekly minimum instead of one half of the weekly minimum. When the writing team is employed in a series, the contribution for each writer on the team will be made on the full weekly minimum instead of one half of the weekly minimum. Okay. So basically what they're saying is, usually when a writing team writes a script, they split the fee. Like you get paid. Let's say for every script you write, and this was a network fee. Every script you write, you get $20,000. A writer's team would split that in half, and one would get 10,000, one would get 10,000. And in order for that to count towards your health insurance, it would only count as $10,000 towards your health insurance minimums. But now they're saying if you write a script, whether or not you're getting paid $10,000, you write one script, that whole $20,000 is going to count towards your minimum, which will get you to, closer to your minimum than if they split it in half, which is good. And you also don't have to split the week. I didn't know they were splitting the weekly minimum. That's crazy. I hope they weren't. Oh, well, I don't know. They don't have to split the weekly minimum. So here's the most important thing: artificial intelligence. We have established regulations for the use of artificial intelligence on NBA covered projects in the following ways. AI can't write or rewrite literary material, and AI generated material will not be considered source material under the NBA, meaning that AI generated material cannot be used to undermine a writer's credit or separated rights. A writer can choose to use AI when performing writing services if the company consents and provided that the writer follows applicable company policies, but the company can require the writer to use AI software, e.g. ChatGPT, when performing writing services. The company must disclose to the writer if any materials given to the writer have been generated by AI or incorporate AI-generated material. The WGA reserves the right to assert that exploitation of writers' material to train AI is prohibited by NBA or other law. Improved terms for screenwriter employment. Guaranteed second step. A second step is required whenever a writer is hired for a first draft screenplay for 200% of minimum or less, including original and non-original screenplays. The requirement is also applies to spec purchases. So I guess second step. Okay, this is just me guessing, but instead of it be like basically a first draft screenplay. A lot of times when you submit a screenplay, there's a lot of writing on it. And I guess they're saying you have to guarantee that the writer has to come back and do more writing rather than you get that writing from that one writer and immediately pass it off to somebody else. They're guaranteeing that writer gets a second chance, which means a second payment, and 200%, and that payment will be 200% of minimum or less, including original and non-original screenplays. Okay, accelerated payment structure for flat deals. Screenwriters hired on a flat deal basis for 200% of minimum or less must be paid 50% of their fee on commencement. If the writer has not delivered within 9 weeks of commencement, 25% of the fee is payable upon invoice. The final 25% is due on delivery of the step. Streaming features. When a feature-length project is made for streaming with the budget of $30 million or more, the minimum initial compensation for a story and teleplay is $100,000, an 18% increase from the current rate, and a 26% increase in the residual base. Combined with the foreign residual improvements described below, this results in a 3-year residual of $216,000 for projects on the largest services and 49% increase from $144,993 under the 2020 NBA. Improved terms and high budget subscription video on demand. Okay. I want to skip some of this because there is something that I want to go straight to view it. But let's improve terms and high budget subscription video on demand. Let's go to viewership-based streaming bonus. The Guild negotiated a new residual based on viewership made for HBS VOD series and films that are viewed by 20% or more of the service's domestic subscribers in the first 90 days of release or in the first 90 days of any subsequent exhibition year get a bonus equal to 50% of the fixed domestic and foreign residual with views calculated as hours streamed domestically of the season or film divided by runtime. For instance, projects written under the new NBA on the largest streaming services would receive a bonus of $9,031 for a half-hour episode, $16,415 for a 1-hour episode, or $40,500 for a streaming feature over $30 million in budget. This bonus structure will take effect for projects released on or after January 1st, 2024. Streaming data transparency. The companies agreed to provide the Guild, subject to a confidentiality agreement, the total number of hours streamed, both domestically and internationally, of self-produced, high-budget streaming programs, e.g. a Netflix original series. The Guild may share information with the membership in aggregated form. There was... Oh, that's what I'm looking for. Minimum terms for advertising supported. Advertising supported streaming. High budget programs made for ad supported streaming services, including FAST, get the same initial compensation terms as the equivalent programs made for subscription streaming services, including network primetime script fees for the highest budget series, as well as protections like SPAN, using the basic cable span cap of $375,000 and premium rate for pilots and backup scripts. These programs will also receive a 2% residual for reuse on the AVOD service. Okay, this is what I wanted to get to. Increased compensation for series employment, weekly pay, and staff writer script fees. Weekly pay increases. The minimum weekly rates for staff writers and Article 14 writers, story editors, executive story editors, will increase by the overall minimum increases, 5%, 4%, 3.5%. The increases for staff writers go into effect immediately, and those for story editors and executive story editors go into effect the Sunday after ratification. Writer-producer weekly rates. There will be a new writer-producer tier, co-producer level, and above that has a higher minimum weekly rate amounting to a 9.5% premium over the story editor, executive story editor rate. These rates will go into effect for new seasons that start 60 days after ratification. Okay, so what all that means, all these titles, story editors, executive story editors, and writer producers, co-producers, these are different levels. These are different tiers, and each tier has it's a different payment. So, you know, it starts at the bottom and it goes up as your what do I want to say? As your title goes up, your payment goes up. So it's staff writer is at the very bottom. Staff writer goes up, story editors, executive story editors, and they're saying there's a new writer producer tier, co-producer level and above. So this is where it goes, and it goes all the way up to executive producer and, you know, showrunner. So each tier gets paid a minimum. This is the minimum amount that, you know, they are supposed to be paid. They could be paid more. Each person, depending on how long you've been working and what shows you've been on and blah, 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 you get a quote, but there is a minimum that they're supposed to pay you no matter what your quote is. So, writer producer weekly minimums, terms of employment. So, and this is what I like too. They're also breaking up the term of employment. It used to be that you would get your you would get paid per week the same amount no matter how many weeks you were being paid. And that was fine when we were on a network model and everybody was working 22 weeks out of the year. You know, you had to write 22 episodes. So you had to work for however many weeks to get those 22 episodes out. So everybody had it was a much lower cost because you worked for at least 10 months. You worked for 10 months out of the year to get those 22 episodes out. Well, maybe not 10, maybe at least 8 to 10 months to get those 22 episodes out. So now they have terms of employment. So now it depends on how long you work, depends on what your minimum is. So up to 9 weeks. So anything 9 weeks and below, you're making $11,371 a week. That's your minimum. 10 to 19 weeks, $9,476 is your weekly minimum. 20 plus weeks, $8,524 is your weekly minimum. So it's kind of like, you know, when you buy in bulk, the more you buy, the price goes down. So the more weeks you have, the price goes down. So the less weeks you have, the price goes up. And I like that. It gives it makes it a little bit more stable for these writers on these streaming shows that only have 8 to 13 episodes. So they'll still be getting paid comparable to people who are working on longer shows, working longer episodes. Development room premiums. Writers of any title working in pre-greenlight rooms of at least 3 writers, including a pre-greenlight room between seasons of a show, will be paid premium rates up to guarantees of 19 weeks. If writers are guaranteed 20 weeks or more, the premium doesn't apply. The development room rates will be 25% above the highest regular room rate. These rates will go into effect for new contracts beginning November 1st, 2023, assuming ratification in October. Development room premium rates up to 19 weeks. Staff writer, $6,959. Story editor / executive story editor, $12,978. Writer producer, $14,214. Staff writer script fees. Staff writers must be paid script fees for the episodes they write. I mean, I don't know why that has to be written in there, but if you write a script, you got to be paid for the script that you write. I want to see what if they put in here the script fee. Um Staffing and duration provisions in episodic series. Minimum. Oh, here we go. Post Greenlight rooms. The following requirements are triggering depending on the number of episodes ordered, unless a single writer is engaged to write all episodes. You. Number of episodes, 6 or fewer. Minimum number of writers in the room, 3. Minimum number of writer producers in writer's room, 3. Number of episodes, 7 to 12. Minimum number of writers in the writer's room, 5. Minimum number of writer producers in the writer's room, 3. 13 plus episodes. Minimum number of writers in the room, 6. Minimum number of writer producers in the writer's room, 3. Okay, so that was one of the things they wanted to try to put minimums, like we want to have at least, this many writers in the writers room, and staff writer, many writers in the writers room, and not just try to have just break out all these shows with just with these very small writing rooms. So the minimum staff must be guaranteed at least 20 weeks or the entire duration of the post green light room, whichever is shorter. I am looking for script fees, but it doesn't say here. I'm not getting a script fee here. So that fee that I threw out, the $20,000, used to be a network script fee eons ago. So that can't possibly still be the fee. And that was network, that wasn't cable, that wasn't what you would get on something like a CW or something like that. That was like a big network fee, $20,000. So I would love to know what the breakdown of script fees are now for big network, cable, little networks, streamers, what those script fees are, but they're not breaking it down. They're not breaking it down. So that's pretty good so far. Let's see. Okay, so a writer and a company can both choose to use AI together, but not separately. I think what they're saying is a writer can't be forced to use AI. A writer can't be forced to use AI. A writer can't be forced to use AI, and a writer can't be given AI materials. But a writer themselves, Lord, the writer can't be forced to use AI. The writer has to be told whether or not AI was used. I think basically it's the writer can't be forced to use AI materials, and they have to be told if some of the source materials was used in AI, and their writing can't be used to teach AI. Their writing cannot be used to teach AI. So we're protecting their creative content. Will this deal address past episodes on stream? No, this is all going forward. This is all going forward. So they can't backdate it. So this is everything from, and basically a lot of this stuff is starting like there's they put in the deal like when a lot of this goes into effect, like they're saying, okay, with these writers, these certain writers go into effect immediately. Like staff writers and these story editor writers, when they go back into the room right now, they're getting paid this right now. But certain things don't start until January 2024. So, like some of this, but of course, a lot of these things, the residual things, really can't start until January 2024 because they haven't been in production. So, a lot of these things can't really, a lot of these new things won't be coming back on. So, so it's hard to ask for residuals on something that hasn't been in production because you've been on strike. So that so I think that was probably part of the negotiations. I wonder if it's some writers who that's their hustle, just first drafting screenplays and selling it to studios, then moving on. I don't know. It's a lot of writers who do just sell scripts. But if you can make money doing rewrites, you're going to make money doing rewrites. Now, there are a lot of writers whose hustle is as script doctors. And that means they come in and they do rewrites for other people's scripts. And I've script doctored a script before. That was an interesting experience. But yeah, you just come in and you just do rewrites for other people's scripts. There's people who just do that. Now, I would love to have a gig like that. That would be a great gig. Yeah. It was very interesting. It was very interesting to get paid to rewrite someone else's script. But there is this thing in writing that they tell you that in order to really have good writing, you have to kill your darlings. You have to be willing to things that you've become so attached to, things you're like, but this is the best line, this is the best, characters, or this is the best lines, this is the best sequence. You have to get rid of it for the betterment of the script. And when you are a script doctor, you come in and you're not attached to anything. So you can go in and kill all their darlings because they're not darlings to you. And I was going in and I was slaughtering. I slaughtered that script. But I was like, I did it. But because I'm a writer at heart, no matter what script I'm coming to, I can't come in without making it the best script I humanly possible. So like everything I was doing to make it a really good script. And I felt like, okay, this was cliched, or this was, this character, you make this character a monster. And it was a female character. And it was like, as a woman, I was like, no, we're not going to do this to this character. We're going to give her some dimensions. We're going to make her three-dimensional. So things like that. So it was fun. It was fun. It was a fun experience. But well, it was the original in this case with me, it was the original writer who brought me in to do the rewrites. So they were like, so when we had the discussion over what I wanted to do, da 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 da, and I discussed with them, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and we had extensive conversations over what I wanted to do, and we had long conversations before I went and wrote. So, because of those long conversations, I was able to go in and do the writing. But I don't know about, in Hollywood, how that feels to have your script come in and be. I don't know how that would feel for somebody else. I'm pretty sure people take it personal. Um, yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure people would take that personal because, like, especially if it was a spec script, especially if it was something that you wrote, you sold, and they got somebody else in to write. It would be different if you were hired on to write something for somebody else, and then they brought in somebody to rewrite what you wrote. But if it was an idea from your head that you sold and then they bring somebody else in, that's going to be personal because this was your idea. So, yeah, yeah, it was original writer. It was his idea. It was something that he had written years ago. So I think since it had been some time for him, I think he was a little what do you call it? Because time had passed, he was a little separated from it. So it wasn't as, he wasn't as sensitive about it as some writers would have been. Yeah. So okay. Okay. So enough with the writer's new deal. On to Ahsoka. Okay, so we are in the penultimate episode of Ahsoka. And it was just like I said was gonna happen. She was gonna get there. She was gonna find Ahsoka. I was watching the whole episode thinking she was gonna have to kill homeboy, but she got out of it somehow without killing him, the evil force user. Um, I'm guessing they're just gonna have to kill him off screen. So she got out of it, got away with it without killing him. I guess they had bigger plans for him, which have crumbled to dust now, unless they're going to recast him, which I really hope they don't do. I hope they just let those plans move on to somebody else, or just let those plans go. But they was kind of cold. First of all, who takes the time to set up a space minefield? And they're gonna have to go into hyperspeed to get off that planet. Who's gonna go and pick all those things up so they can get off the planet? There's a minefield waiting for them. Like, are they going to be able to jump into hyperspace before they get to the minefield? What's going on? Um, because that was a really big minefield that they left out there. Yeah. I I can understand why they didn't fight to the death, because apparently, the writers had bigger plans for him and they wanted him to survive. They wanted him to survive, like just like they wanted Grand Admiral Thrawn to get off the planet. So they wanted these things to happen. So in order for him to survive, Ahsoka had to let him go, just like she let Homegirl go. They let both the evil Force users go, and it was a lot of this whole episode was a lot of impossible situations that people were getting out of because somebody was letting somebody go. Either Ahsoka was letting Balin go so she can go down and get to Sabine and what's his name? I already forgot his name. Ezra. And then it was the three of them against all those stormtroopers. But then they got called back, so they let them go. So they got let go. And then they left Homegirl, the little evil Force user. They left her behind. And so she was surrounded, but then Ahsoka let her go. So it was just a just a bunch of instances of everybody letting everybody go. This was like Frozen. Let it go. Well, it was unfair that they should get caught up in this when all they were doing was giving her a ride. They gave her a ride, and then now they're in the middle of a space minefield. I would have been deuces too. They're like, oh no, not for the kid. You deal with this. Bye. They had every right to just be up and out, up and out. Yeah. He and apparently he has a past. He has a past in the Clone Wars, I think. So he has a history. So I just don't know it. Him and the little girl, the little his little evil Force user Padawan. They have a little history, but we just don't know it. But Lord, but but yeah, but he's getting philosophical right about now, telling her, oh, giving her all this sage advice and letting her be with the Empire while he moves on to greater things. Mm. Ezra is a Jedi, apparently. So Ezra is a Jedi. So apparently Ezra's a Jedi. That was his um you know lightsaber that she was using. He was like, I don't need a lightsaber. I'm just gonna use the Force. But all you're doing is pushing people over. You need a lightsaber. It's like You just pushing people. All you doing is pushing people over. You still need a lightsaber. Like that fight could have been over and done with if you would have used your force and a lightsaber. That's all I'm saying. I've been practicing. He looked very much like Keanu Reeves on the new Matrix. He looked very much like Keanu Reeves in the new Matrix. Thrawn is a really evil villain. This is why he's a favorite, and this is why they brought him back, because he was wiped out. When they wiped out all of that canon, they wiped out Thrawn too. So when they brought him back, people were very excited when he got brought back, and they put him into the Clone Wars, and they gave him his own book. So he's a really big villain. He's basically, I would say, he's up there with Darth Vader. He may not be as scary as Darth Vader, but he's on another level. Like Darth Vader is scary, but he's definitely evil and cunning, He's up there. He's up there in the Star Wars lexicon with Darth Vader, I think. Took it. He was just showing off. I know the Force now. I've been practicing. I can push people over with the Force. Here's the thing. In the Heir to the Empire books that I read, that I have back here, when Thrawn was coming into power in those books, there was a senator, and it was him up against Princess Leia, and this person was constantly just blocking everything Princess Leia wanted to do, and it was because of his own ambition and his own self-centeredness that, he was thinking of, himself and putting himself forward. So he blocked everything that she wanted to do to try to save the New Republic. Now the difference between this and these books is it was a trilogy, and they was able to stop Thrawn in 3 books because they were able to realize the threat he was and focus on that. But are you talking about Luke Skywalker? I'm talking about Star Wars, his sister, Princess Leia. We're talking about everybody around Star Wars. This show, Ahsoka, takes place after Return of the Jedi. I don't know if you know anything about Star Wars, Ingrid. But the original Star Wars is there's Star Wars, then there's The Empire Strikes Back, and then there's Return of the Jedi, the first 3 movies. Well, this takes place after the third movie. So after the third movie, they've defeated the Empire, they've defeated the Emperor and Darth Vader, and they have this new republic going on, and and they're trying to rebuild this new republic all throughout the universe. And while they're doing this, there's little vestiges of the Empire trying to put themselves back together and rise up against them. And some people are throwing their weight behind this one ruler, this one leader, the Grand Admiral Thrawn, because he's a very strong leader, and they feel like if they get behind him, he could bring the Empire back together. And there's people in the New Republic who don't want to even believe that he's still alive, let alone a threat. So you're dealing with ignorant people who don't want to look at what's happening right in front of them. Okay. Well, there you go. Return of the Jedi. You mentioned Gideon almost taking Mandalore. Yes. Yes, they did. So that lets us know that this happens after season 3 of The Mandalorian. But so there's a lot of politics going on right now. So while Ahsoka and the general are trying to stop this Grand Admiral from rising up into power and bringing back the Empire, you have these other people in the New Republic who's trying to focus on who's focusing on their own little, focusing their own little power. They want to wield their own little power. Like, I have the power to stop you, so you ain't gonna be able to go nowhere. You can't do nothing. Da 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 da. You have to listen to me. I don't care what you say. It's trifling. It's trifling. They're being trifling because they're not listening to somebody who actually fought in the rebellion, in the war, who know what they're talking about. They were like, where were you? Were you in the rebellion? Were you in the war? Then what do you know about what's going on? Nothing. You know nothing. So why are we listening to you? So, yes. So, but in the show, they have this one scene with the general in front of the little senators, and they were about to try to court martial her and take away her title and take away all her power, and like, we're gonna court martial you for going out and helping Ahsoka and blah 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 blah. And then Princess Leia sends in C-3PO, because the real Princess Leia is now dead. So she sends in C-3PO with a message saying, "Oh, I sent her out to go get Ahsoka. She was there under my orders. I didn't know you had ordered her not to go. She was just following my orders. So everything's chill." So she saved the day at the last minute, So it only took 7 episodes for it to grow on you. Well, I would recommend you go back and watch the Clone Wars. it would probably help to watch the Clone Wars and to watch Star Wars Rebels, because I think Ezra and Sabine are in Star Wars Rebels, and Balin and Shin are in the Clone Wars. So you would have to watch. You'd have to watch those. He was that clean in the prequels. He was that clean in the prequels. He wasn't as dirty as he was in the original trilogy in the prequels. In the prequels, he was really clean. Um, and I told you I'm not going. That's too many episodes. I can't. If I'm gonna go back and watch Star Wars Rebels, I might as well go back and watch the Clone Wars. And somebody already said I was watching, I think, um, TV Sins, and I think they was like, it's 140 something episodes. Do you know 140 something episodes? You know how long I would have to be watching that? That's a long. Okay, 100 episodes is what usually they would take in a network show with 20 something seasons, 20 something episodes per season. We usually get 100 episodes after 4 seasons. So he might not have even said 140. He might have said 170. He might have said 171 episodes. So that's even worse. That's a lot of episodes. That's a lot of episodes. It's too much for me to try to catch up on. It's too much. But yeah. So Princess Leia saves the day. Um they still haven't told Ezra about Grand Admiral Thrawn. I don't know how he gonna feel about Sabine when they tell him that truth. Uh Grand Admiral Thrawn is really happy that Ahsoka was distracted in trying to get to Sabine and Ezra so he can sneak off the planet. He's like, "Oh, our shuttle is fully packed," and I was like, Didn't she say it would take 3 rotations to get off the planet? You telling me it took y'all? It took y'all done did 3 rotations? I don't believe it. I don't believe y'all been sitting up here for 3 rotations. I believe it. She's been a little bit mouthy at him. She's always contradicting him. And she's not really useful to him. She came, she got him. He got his 3 witches who can tell him all the who he still got, who can tell him all the stuff he needs to know. Once she gets him off out of the system, her use to him is gone, is done. Her use to him is done once she gets him out of that system. So I can definitely see him killing her. He was gonna kill Balin and Shin. So, okay. Is that everything? Grand Admiral Thrawn. Sabine half top half first of all, didn't tell Ezra that she thought that Ahsoka was dead. He was like, "You thought Ahsoka was dead?" Ahsoka using the Force to find Sabine. And then me, week after week, seeing David Tennant's name in the credits and was like, "Who the hell is David Tennant?" And then I found out, okay, he's Huang. Because I was like, who is David Tennant playing in this show? And he's the robot. Because I was like, you know, I just didn't know. You know, David Tennant, Doctor Who, dude from Harry Potter, that dude. So, but yeah. So next week, final episode. So Grand Admiral Thrawn gets off the planet. And I guess Ahsoka's going to be in hot pursuit. I don't understand what's going to happen next. She goes back to the council and be like, "Hey, I told you so. Grand Admiral Thrawn is off the planet. Now we need to fight." I don't know what to expect next week. I have no idea what to expect next week. Oh, I don't think they do. I think they make the final episodes 50 some episodes. This episode was kind of long. It felt kind of long to me. I remember because I had gotten groceries at the beginning. I put my groceries away and I sat down and watched it. By the time I finished, the hour was over. So it had to have been 40, 50 minutes long. Yeah, it was pretty long. It was pretty long. Okay, so next week, final episode. I have no idea what to expect. Monday, I'm gonna try to go see A Haunting in Venice. So I'm gonna have to go outside of my neighborhood because it's not playing at my neighborhood theater. So I'm gonna have to venture outside of my neighborhood just to see A Haunting in Venice. So that's what I'll be talking about. We'll talk about Poirot and what Kenneth Branagh has been doing with that franchise. But and of course, there's a video on Friday. Yeah, this one was 43 minutes. Yeah, I've seen the other ones. I've seen the first one was Murder on the Orient Express, and the second one was Death on the Nile. I've seen both of those. So, and I've seen multiple versions of each of those first two movies. So it's interesting to see what he does with these movies. And he always changes them. He always changes them. So it's not just because I've read the books and I've seen other movies. is still going in and experiencing something new because he changes them. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go because it's September. I don't know what is coming up in October. I do know. I think November. I think November is the Marvels. November is Marvels, and December is Aquaman. And that's how we end out the year. We end out the year with Jason Momoa. Excited for that. Okay, so like I said, video on Friday, and then see you back on Monday, and we'll talk about Haunting in Venice. But in the meantime, thanks for watching.